For the love of all that is holy, would you please stop pounding me?
Then move!
Oh boy. It's never good when a book starts talking to you.
I've never been treated in such a
You know,
manner.
guys, I've heard of audiobooks, but this is ridiculous.
Oh my god.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of PlayStation Underground. You got Tim and Kristen here.
Hey.
Hey, so we're joined by Reed Taguchi, who's the marketing lead on NieR Replicant from Square Enix, for a look at NieR Replicant. Reed, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be, a slice of NieR Replicant that we haven't seen on the ramp up to this new release. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to be seeing?
Sure. So this is pretty early in the game. It's a gameplay segment known as the Lost Shrine. And the reason we're going here is because our little sister Yona has disappeared from our village, and we're frantically searching to find her. So this is the first place where we're looking, is the Lost Shrine.
Okay, great. And we should note that we're checking out some, pre-captured gameplay. But yeah, this seems like a great sort of establishing shot of, and maybe we jumped ahead a little bit there to the entrance here. But can you tell us about, this location and kind of its place within the world of NieR Replicant?
Sure. So this Lost Shrine location is pretty important to the rest of the game. We'll come back here a couple times, but we can tell, just in the way that it establishes this world, that we're in a very future post-apocalyptic version of a modern world that's similar to ours. Chronologically, this takes place thousands of years into the future from, our present time, and then thousands of years before the events of NieR Automata. So we're kind of functioning in these really cosmic, outrageous periods of time.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and I've played some of NieR Automata. Most of it, I've gotten several endings, but I have not actually. I don't have any experience with NieR Replicant. So maybe one thing I'm kind of curious from, and if there are good examples within this video as we're checking it out, this gameplay. What are some of the really cool things that make NieR Replicant unique from a gameplay perspective that are worth highlighting?
From a gameplay perspective, I would say that, if you're familiar with the original 2010 release of, all caps NieR in the West, then there's going to be a lot that NieR Automata is establishing that this game tries to follow in the footsteps of. So, where that original release was kind of panned critically for not having the greatest controls or the greatest combat, here comes NieR Automata, overseen by Platinum Games. The combat is incredibly fluid, the movement is fast and feels really great. And so that same amount of work has been applied to this title to bring it to that same level of fluidity and grace and excitement.
It's interesting that we just saw this perspective shift for this little combat sequence. Is this something that sort of happens a lot in the game?
Absolutely. So, going back to fans of Automata, that game really took advantage of this perspective shifting. It would change genre a lot, so not always a hack and slash, sometimes a bullet hell or a side scroller. So this game you'll start to realize that this game is actually the one that established all of those mechanics to begin with, and Automata is kind of just expanding on them.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really cool. That was one of my, favorite elements of Automata. So going in with not a lot of experience with this NieR game, I was really happy to see that it has some of those similar tenets. But another thing, the combat, the encounters. What is sort of the bread and butter of NieR Replicant's combat all about, as we're seeing here?
So we're seeing a lot of combos. A lot has been done to sort of, increase the range of what the player can do within combat. So you have light and heavy attacks. You have the ability now to dodge a little bit more actively. You can parry enemies' attacks. So if you hit the guard button at the right time, you'll parry the enemy's attacks, make them stagger a little bit, and open them up to receiving more of your attacks.
Nice.
Okay, gotcha. That was one thing that I really, appreciated about NieR gameplay in general, was just sort of depending on how deep you wanted to go and how technical you wanted to go, the game could either be really accessible in combat, or you could get really, really technical and, be really, really focused on your parries. Would you say that it's sort of that same level of sort of accessibility versus mastery that's attainable within NieR Replicant?
Absolutely. I would say there's a ton of variety here in terms of how you want to approach combat. You know, once we get the Grimoire Vice later and it opens up our ability to use magic, that provides even more, possibilities. So you can, like in Automata where you had the pods, you can apply pressure and damage with, you're just kind of holding down R1 and like spamming the enemy with bullets. You can do that in this game as well with magic while you're still attacking, while you're trying to play well technically. There's a lot of possibilities here.
Cool. I see we've equipped something called the Nirvana Dagger, which is coolest name possible for a weapon.
So what are these monsters that we're sort of fighting up against right now?
These are known as shades. So these are sort of the primary enemies you're going to be encountering throughout the game. They don't do very well in sunlight, which is kind of why they're steaming here.
Oh, cool.
So that's actually part of the game where, you can draw them into these situations where they are exposed to sunlight, so they're a little weaker. But yeah, these are the main enemies that you're going to be fighting through the story.
That's really cool. So we're seeing, maybe that was an attempt there to before the enemy was fallen to kind of knock them back into the sunlight. That's such a cool mechanic. I really like that. Obviously, like this game's looking, it looks really pretty. The art style does a lot of heavy lifting for just how gorgeous these NieR games are. But what else has been done to sort of, enhance the visuals of this or other elements in this version of the game?
So I'm glad that you pointed out like the textures and stuff have been upgraded. The character models have been vastly improved, in my opinion, over the original. But not only that, like the sort of more subtle elements, like the music has been re-recorded. The original composer, Keiichi Okabe, came back, took a look at the score, was like, I think I can do a little bit better. So a lot of the music has been rearranged. All of it has been re-recorded. And it sort of adds a very, subtle gameplay layer. Yoko Taro talks about the soundtrack being like the perfect background music. And it's not in a way that's like negative or anything, but it's in the sense that like the music should be in service of whatever emotion is being conveyed by the game. So we find a lot that they're trying to layer the different portions of the soundtrack. So while we're just walking around, it's very calm. It's just the vocals. But as soon as we get into combat, the layers will sort of seamlessly add on. The percussion comes in, more instrumentation, and it really adds to that organic feeling of excitement. As you start transitioning between the different types of gameplay.
I love here we have looks like an environmental puzzle, which is one of my favorite things to do in a game.
Yeah, and you're going to find a lot of these too. It's not just hack and slash all the way through. There are cerebral portions that sort of test your brain.
Yeah. All right, we've jumped ahead here.
Yoda!
Ooh, Yoda!
We found her.
Oh, finally.
We found our sister, and she is behind something nasty.
So yeah, this is so cool looking. I love this sort of I don't know. There's just not a lot of games that look quite like this in terms of just like the art style of the enemies and just sort of like the ornate designs and glyphs. Man, yeah, it's looking really great. All right. So what's happening here?
So we found the Grimoire Vice. This is going to be our sort of magical companion for the rest of the game, but he's not going to be very happy about it at first.
Oh no!
So I'll let this play out a little bit.
Cool. Yeah, let's check it out.
Yeah, let's take a look. I love that their armor looks like faces.
For the love of all that is holy, would you please stop pounding me?
Oh,
Then
boy.
move!
It's never good when a book
Yoda!
starts talking to you.
And I wanted to give you that space, This is, of course, the amazing Liam O'Brien reprising his role as Grimoire Vice. All of the original cast from the 2010 release has come back to re-record their voices.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's so great. Yeah, guys, I've heard of audiobooks, but this is ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
I want to apologize for my comment earlier about audiobooks. But So what's sort of the relationship like there with the Grimoire? Is that a companion that's with you through the rest of NieR Replicant?
Yes, he becomes your companion forever. And yeah, I feel like the relationship is pretty comedic. Grimoire Weiss is kind of this stuffy, grandiose, arcane book with sort of all of the knowledge of the universe, and he does not miss an opportunity to tell you that you suck at this or like you're doing this wrong.
I was gonna say, like, right at the beginning there, he was like, listen, you know, aren't doing too well, and I am this ancient being.
Exactly.
I will grant you one final chance.
It's one thing I appreciate about, you know, my experience with NieR Automata as well, which is just like there's this balance of like levity and absurdity with some of the serious natures and tone of the world at times, and bouncing back and forth between that.
I think it's necessary because honestly, the dark themes that are explored in both of these games could use a little bit of balancing, you know?
Yeah, definitely. All right, what's happening here?
Big boys
Yeah.
pick it up.
They do not look happy.
No. If I ever have a giant suit of customized armor, it has to have like a cool face on the front. Like I want it to be mostly face.
Oh my gosh, I love how they move.
It's great. Okay, so the Grimoire, it adds some ranged sort of combat options here I'm seeing.
Right, so you see the bar up on the top right. That's the blue one is going to be your magic bar. So when you're firing what's known as dark blast, these sort of magical projectiles at your enemies, the gauge will slowly deplete. So you can't always be holding this down and applying pressure.
Right.
We cannot move so long as the barrier is in place.
Gotta think it through.
Yeah, definitely.
Stay calm. The man who keeps his head in the fight is the one who...
All right, so one of them broke out of his shell.
Yeah, okay, so I'm kind of...
Oh, so this guy can sort of lunge at you.
Yeah, seeing like some different attack patterns that you have to juggle and bounce between here.
Just love the music.
Yeah, it's so intense.
Now, put it out of
Oh yeah, so when they're knocked down like that, then that's your cue to keep hitting it as hard as you can.
It is all
Got it.
too real, lad.
And that sort of kicks off the next stage.
Okay, gotcha. I always break through. Oh, that was close.
Look at him, he's like, oh.
If you have siblings, you know how that goes. So many close calls. Yeah.
Round two.
Oh, and if you notice,
Oh, penis. Go ahead.
if you notice in the back too, that sort of like magical barrier, it has some text on it.
Yeah.
This is known as Angelic Text in the universe of NieR, and it actually has a key to it that is equivalent to the English alphabet. So if you really took the time and you had this key, you could decode all of these messages, and you'll find some neat Easter eggs that the devs have put in.
I love that.
Yeah, that's great. The attention to detail within the NieR series and NieR Replicant is so impressive. From like the the made up languages that are part of like the vocal tracks with the soundtrack. It's just really impressive.
Absolutely, and I'll plug a previous PlayStation blog where we interviewed Emmy Evans on how she created that language for the soundtrack. It's really, really interesting. I learned some new stuff from reading that.
Look at this big boy attack.
Going all out.
Oh, I love that he shoots it like it's a spear.
Oof. Yeah.
Or like a missile.
Oh yeah, so this is another upgraded sort of magical attack that we gain. Throughout the game, you'll progress and gain ever more powerful magical attacks through the Grimoire Weiss. This one's called the Dark Lance.
Okay.
The other guy's like, I am not okay with this.
They are not but
Maybe you should have gotten some protective eyewear, I think, for this battle specifically.
The Grimoire's just like, just swat them. Just swat them from the side.
This is one thing I also really like about NieR, and it's getting me excited about this game as well, is that sort of like the almost like bullet hell element that enters battles, where it's important to deal damage and dodge melee attacks, but these sort of space controlling ranged barrages from bosses is so cool.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that keeps like players on their toes the most. Is just they have to change genres so many times throughout this game. And It's not just your traditional just hack and slash. There's exactly like you said. There's bullet hell.
Yeah.
So many different ways to that the enemies challenge you. The game will challenge you.
Yeah, and as we see, a success in combat here on the verge here, I guess we can say goodbye here. But Reed, wanted to say thank you so much for joining us on Underground for a look at NieR Replicant.
This was super fun, guys. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay segment. The game comes out on April 23rd, and there's plenty more to discover and experience with this title. I really hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks so much, and thanks for watching.